Bonjour tout le monde. Welcome to my channel, Explore du Monde. My name is Megan. I'm an American who has lived in several places in the United States, as well as in France and England. And I've also worked as a professional tour guide and travel agent. Because of these different life experiences, I've traveled quite a bit. So this channel, Explore du Monde, will just be my take on traveling, both how to plan your trips, what to pack, and what to see when you go there. If you're interested in that, please subscribe to my channel, as well as click the little bell icon to get notifications for when I post new videos. Today, my first ever video is going to be just generic how to plan your trip. It's going to be the outline and the steps that I take when I plan my trips, how I decide where I'm going, how I decide where I'm staying, what I'm seeing, my itinerary, all of that. So please stay tuned and we will get started. So first thing is how to decide where you're going. I think a lot of us already have ideas on where we want to go. And if you are coming up blank, just look back at some conversations that you've had with friends, with family, with random strangers, and where did you tell them that you wanted to go? I personally want to go everywhere. So how do I decide where I'm going? The next, and probably actually the more important steps to this, are how much time do you have and what is your budget? So how much time do you have? For instance, I currently live in DC. If I have a 3-day weekend, I'm not going to fly over to Europe for 3 days because I have to take 2 of those days to travel in, and that would mean I'd only have 1 day in Europe, and that's a really expensive trip for just 1 day. It's also really inconvenient. So if you don't have a lot of time, if you don't have a lot of money, maybe you need to travel somewhere closer to home. Now, the second way that you can kind of decide where you want to go, you can actually Google things. If you genuinely have no idea where you want to go, or you want to try and branch out into new things, Google top 10 places you need to visit in your 20s, top 10 places you need to see in 2019. There are so many blogs, YouTube videos, Pinterest posts about where to travel. Someone else can definitely give you an idea. The second step to planning your trip is deciding how you are going to get there. This will depend on where you are, where you're going, what is accessible to you, what the best way to get there is. Lots of things. I grew up in the Midwest, and for us, driving was almost always the easiest and cheapest way to get places, so we did that a lot. Now that I'm kind of an adult and living in Washington, D.C., I have a lot more options open to me. There's the Amtrak, I have a car, I can take a plane, I can take a bus. It's all of those things. They're all accessible to me. One thing to keep in mind is that sometimes the cheapest option is not always the best option. For example, I lived in Paris for several years, and if I was taking a trip up to London, either for a long weekend or for a week, I wanted to take the train. The Eurostar was great. Even though it was more expensive on average than a plane, it made a lot more sense in timing of my trip and getting as much time in the location I was traveling to, London, as possible. And that was because Gare du Nord is in the middle of Paris. St. Pancras, which is the train station that the Eurostar goes into in London, is in the middle of London. So I just had to get to the train station. You only need to be there like an hour early. So you get there, go through security, jump on the train. It takes you right to the middle of London. As soon as you walk off, you're pretty close to the tube, close to where you want to be. But you need to decide, based on where you're traveling, where you live, who you're traveling with, what the best way to get there is going to be. All right, step number 3, where are you staying once you get there? How are you going to decide that? There are many ways that you can decide where you're going to stay when you get somewhere. So you have hotels, you have Airbnbs, you have couch surfing. There are other ways. If you have friends who live there or family who lives there, you may be able to crash with them. Now, when I don't have friends or family that I can stay with for whatever reason, whether they don't live there or it's not going to work for this trip, my preferred method is Airbnb. But hotels are great too. I've never done couch surfing, so if you have, comment below and let us know how you liked it. Now, the other thing that you want to decide when you're planning where you're going to stay in a certain place is the location of the hotel. For instance, if you are coming to Washington, D.C., you don't want to stay in a hotel way out in Maryland or way out in Virginia that's going to take you a super long time to get into the city, if you can help it. The other thing about location is that you want to feel safe. If you're going to a place that you are unfamiliar with, you may feel unsafe anyway, just because you're unfamiliar with it. But really, when you're booking a hotel, when you're booking an Airbnb, make sure to look at those comments, make sure to look at the ratings. Make sure it says something about, this is a safe neighborhood. I felt safe here. This was conveniently located to the metro. It was safe. They have those buzzwords in there, and you can usually find out pretty easily if a location feels safe when you're there, and you will feel comfortable there. If that still doesn't work for you, if you're still a little unsure, you can Google what are safe neighborhoods to stay in New York, in DC, in London, in Paris. There are lots of blogs and all of that sort of stuff out there that will give you that information. Step number 4 is deciding what you want to do when you get there. Similar to deciding where you want to go, you probably already have ideas. If you're coming to Washington, D.C., you may want to see the Capitol building, the White House, the Washington Monument. There's a lot of things to see. If you don't know what you want to see, or if what you already decided you want to see doesn't fill your entire itinerary, then you can look at TripAdvisor, you can look at blogs, you can talk to people you know who've lived there or been there and ask all of them for advice. The second thing that you want to decide when you're deciding what you want to do places is, what am I interested in, or what am I and the people that I'm traveling with interested in? For instance, I love history. I love museums. I love pretty much all museums. I majored in history in college. That's what my undergraduate degree is in. My master's degree is in art history. So as you can imagine, I geek out over museums. I love the National Gallery. I love the American History Museum. If you are not a history person, if you are not a museum person, then you don't want to spend your entire vacation in a museum. Maybe you're really into sports. You love soccer. You love hockey. You love baseball. Baseball is the other one I was going to say. So when you come to DC, you should see if there's a Capitals game. If you want to go to a hockey game, you should see if there's a Nats game. Nats games are super fun, and they have $5 tickets. For baseball. If you are interested in soccer, see if there's a DC United game. There's always things to do based on your own interests. So really just keep in mind what you want to do. Again, in this instance, Google is a great resource. Google, what are the top 10 things to do in DC related to history, related to sports, related to outdoors? What are the top outdoor things to do in DC? And that is another way that you can kind of decide what you want to do. All right, step number 5 is your itinerary. This is kind of the last step before you actually travel on your trip. The best way to start an itinerary, because I think that's the hardest part, is getting started, is to start with things that have a set time and amount of time that they're going to take. Theater productions. If you're going to New York and you're going to see a musical, a lot of them start at 8 o'clock at night, unless you're going to a matinee. So you know you need to be at the theater around 7:30 or 7, depending on how early you want to be. That helps take care of that chunk of time. Traveling. You're not going to be able to go see something while you're on an airplane or while you're traveling in from the airport or to your Airbnb or whatever you're doing. So plan those things in first. That will tell you how much time during the week you actually have in which to put the things that you want to go see. Next, I would look at what things are close together. If I am going to New York, I'm obviously not going to do the Statue of Liberty one day and Ellis Island another day. That's a really obvious example, especially since you buy the tickets together and the ferry takes you to both places. But I think it's worth saying, like, you can't plan to do the Statue of Liberty on one day and then do Ellis Island on another day. That doesn't make sense. If there is something that is a little bit more outdoors and it is weather specific, like Ellis Island, sometimes you don't have a choice, but if you do have a choice, you want to do it in the sun. Try to make your schedule kind of fluid if you can, because that will allow you a little more flexibility to do things outdoors when it's nice out and to leave the indoor things for when it's not. Now, if you get a whole week where it's super nice, good for you. You can just do whatever you want. So have a schedule planned, but also make it flexible. The last and sixth step is enjoy. Enjoy your trip. You're going on vacation, you're getting out of your normal routine. Enjoy it, have fun. Don't stress about the little things. Make sure that you're eating enough, make sure you're drinking water. Just enjoy your vacation. That's pretty much it. That's all I have for today. So please tune in next time when I show you how I use some of these tips to plan my 3-day trip to New York. And I guess I will see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button. All right, à la prochaine, mes amis.